All right, if you're watching this video, chances are you're an entrepreneur or a high performer looking to be more productive, be more disciplined, or just show up more energized for yourself and for your business, right? And really the only way to improve anything in which you feel that there's a deficit in is to have data to actually provide supporting evidence that there is a deficit or there is a problem, right? So if you are not taking home as much money as you'd like to be every month, and you actually look at your bank statements, right? You see what's coming in and what's going out, then you'll know that there's a problem, right? You're either not earning enough or you're not spending enough. But if you don't track those things, it's going to be really hard to come up with a solution or a set of goals to fix that problem, right? Now, with my life and with my business, I lean on this tool called the Human Optimization Tracker. And this helps me improve a lot of different areas of my life personally and professionally. The person who actually created this, his name is Ravi Abuvala. He is a coach and a mentor of mine that's done well over $50 million in business. He's an absolute beast, and he attributes a lot of his success to health, and as do I, right? And as do a lot of entrepreneurs. Now, there's going to be those anomalies and those outliers of entrepreneurs that get really shit sleep and they Uber Eats McDonald's every single day and they're still successful, but that's going to catch up with their health later in life. And you want to make sure that you have an integration, not necessarily a balance, but an integration between your life, your health and your business, because that's how you're going to have, get the most out of your business, right? So anyways, what is this tool? How does it work? How does it help me? How can it help you, right? So this essentially is a tool that I use every single day, and I log a couple of quick things and quick actions in which I've recognized patterns for things that I do or things that I stay away from that generally yield to a really good and productive following day, right? So the way that I track all this stuff is on the second, for example, I go back and I track all of my stats for the first. It literally takes like 60 seconds. So I don't want to hear any bullshit like, oh, I don't have time, or, oh, this is stupid, or I don't, especially I don't have enough time, because it literally takes like 60 seconds, right? The only valid argument that you might have after watching this video is that I have a $300 ring that I also pay a $6 a month subscription for called the Aura Ring. And that gives me some valuable stats for my sleep that I feel is 100% worth it. Is it a little expensive and a little annoying? Yeah, but is it entirely worth it to figure out how you can improve the quality of your sleep, which translates into your business and your daily life and your energy levels and all of that stuff? Absolutely, right? But if you don't want to get those things, that's totally fine. You could still use some of the other elements in this sheet perfectly fine. It's kind of just like a mini log of things that you did the day before that yielded either a productive or an overall unproductive day kind of the following day. And it's not just about productivity, it's about just how you feel, how you showed up for your personal life, your relationships, your health, your business, your work, etc. Right? So again, on the day after, you're going to log the previous day's stats, because you won't have figured out what time you woke up or known how long you slept or what your sleep stats were until you actually wake up that morning and you reflect back on the previous day. In this case, there's a couple things that I like to track. You could track totally different things, right? If you do 2 workouts a day, you might want to hold yourself accountable to making sure you do both of them. If you want to meditate, if you want to journal, if you want to do a cold plunge every single day, that is totally up to you, and you can add that into this sheet. But I try to figure out what are the few variables that I want to hold myself accountable to doing every single day, or what are the bad habits that I want to stay away from that usually mean that I have better quality sleep and that I have a better day, or that I'm setting myself up for the best day possible the following day, right? So a couple of the things that I track are just revolved around, things like not drinking caffeine, not, absorbing blue light an hour before bed, not eating garbage foods if that's not already self-explanatory, some of my sleep stats, some of my Aura stats, right, specifically revolved around sleep, like my readiness score, my sleep score, what time I go to bed, what time I wake up, how much time I'm actually asleep, right? Fun fact, in college, I used to go to bed at like midnight and I used to wake up at like 5 every single day for like a semester and a half. And I would tell people, oh yeah, I only get about 5 hours of sleep. But in reality, there's probably a 30-minute window in which I'm actually not asleep, because now I'll try to get 8 hours of sleep, but then I look at my Oura Ring and it says I only got 7.5 hours of sleep because I'm in bed for 8 hours. So long story short, it's important to track some of this stuff to figure out like what you're actually doing, and then what the outcomes of what you're doing and the outputs of your specific inputs are, so you can adjust those things and again set yourself up for the best day, the best week, the best month possible, both personally and professionally. So again, just running down this list, literally on the second I'll wake up and for 60 seconds I'll just go through and say, did I do these things or did I not do these things the night before, right? And again, the reason why I've kind of pinpointed these specific set of 7 or 8 things is because I recognized that when I did these things and then I tracked specifically my sleep scores, my energy levels, my productivity the following day, there was either a good outcome or a bad outcome, right? And so I'm just picking up on patterns. So like I said, for you, it might be an entirely different set of data points, but the point is to like figure those things out and then to track your own data and then come to your own conclusions based on like the problems that you're recognizing, right? When you're not productive, right? What did you do the day before? How did you sleep? Things of that nature. Did you exercise? Did you expend some energy? All that fun stuff. So then bringing us into like the sleep. So I would set some specific goals. That's what I do for myself. But also like understand that you're human and sometimes you're going to stay up a little bit later. You're going to sleep in a bit. And so really the goal for me is that I adhere to these things for at least 2 out of 3 days of the month, right? Now I know that that's a lot of days where I'm missing certain things, but I just want to make sure that I'm like above average on everything, right? I'm 2 out of 3, not 1 out of 3 or 0 out of 3. And it's unrealistic for me to be 3 out of 3 in all these categories. I'm just trying to figure out, hey, can I adhere to these things more often than not? Because that's what's going to set me up to have a really, really good month, right? And inevitably a really good quarter and a really good year. So that's where I track my sleep time, my wake up time. I have my aura readiness score, my sleep score, my heart rate. I try to get this as low as possible because generally if your heart rate's elevated, it means you're stressed in some way, shape, or form. And so you want to figure out what are the things that you need to do maybe the night before or the day before to actually transition from all the stress of work and business and life and all these pressures that you have on your shoulders. How can you release those things and so you can actually sleep peacefully and show up energized to attack all of those problems the day before, right? And then rather than journaling, what I do is I track the quality of my day based on how I showed up for my life, my health, and my work. Now, these might mean entirely different things to you, but for me, it really means, how did I contact and communicate with friends, with family members, and even business partners can kind of overlap into life. So sometimes these can be a little bit tricky, even for me to differentiate. And then for health, it's really like, did I eat clean or did I eat garbage? Did I exercise? Did I not exercise? Did I drink alcohol? Did I not drink alcohol? All of these things that kind of factor into how I feel are very important to me. And I want to track those things because it will allow me to hold myself accountable to actually like meeting those standards, right? And then how did I show up for my work? Did I put in the time? Did I put in the energy? Did I put in the effort? Did I slack off a little bit, right? Because just because I log 14 hours on my screen time, where I'm on my laptop and I'm actually quote unquote working, it doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of work or the things that I was working on was moving the needle forward, right? Maybe I was watching educational videos on how to learn a new software, or I was kind of like wasting time and I wasn't really doing kind of the high intentional and productive work. Then I'm going to want to like document a lower score than a 10. It's not going to be perfect just because I'm putting in the time, right? So that's the tool in a nutshell. And then at the end of the month, you'll kind of see an average, right? So you'll see how often was I eating healthy? How often was I actually getting good quality sleep and things of that nature? And I want these to be as green as possible. So like what I do is for anything 50% or less. So if I'm like only, let's say, waking up at the time that I'm trying to hold myself accountable to 1 out of 2 days or less, that's a red flag that I want to identify as a problem, right? If I'm between like 50 and 65, I'm getting there, right? Like I'm on track to be good by the end of the month, as long as I like pick up the pace and I be a little bit more disciplined with those things. And then if I'm above 65%, like I'm golden, right? More than 2 out of 3 times I actually show up and I do what I tell myself I'm going to do, right? And in some categories, I try to hit 90, 95, 100%. But like I said, like we're human, I'm human, and I acknowledge that. And so I just want to make sure that I can get as many of these as green as possible, as few of them as yellow and red, right? Because that means that I'm falling off track in one of those categories. And the only reason I have one of those categories listed out is because I have provided myself with evidence that when I either do or don't do those things, it has a consequence the following day, right? And then I can track kind of my average time that I'm asleep, my sleep scores, and then I can kind of track just the documented score of how, what I got every single day, life, health, work, on average for the entirety of that month. And I can't tell you how helpful this has been when I've had a few months worth of data and I can see the trends, right? I can see that literally on a month where I made less money, for example, I had more red and more yellow versus a month that I had made more money and I was more disciplined with my business and I showed up better and more energized for my team, for my family, personally, professionally, etc. I would notice that I'd make more money, right? So there's literally a correlation between the things that you have in the green and between having better quality sleep and aligning with your principles and just being more disciplined overall. There's a direct correlation with those things and with the progress that you make towards getting towards your goals. And I think that's the most important thing, right? Same thing with like tracking your net worth, your daily finances, things of that nature. So, I aim for these to be as high as possible, generally above an 8, because I'm pretty picky and sometimes I can be a little bit hard on myself. And so in reality, I have nothing to complain about. I'm probably more at like a 9, if not closer to a 10 in a lot of different areas of my life. But it's important to look at things like objectively, right? Now, a couple of nuances to this sheet. There's some formulas here that you can pretty much just like copy and paste this sheet and use on your own if you want to give this a try. But if you're tracking like total sleep, what I've found is just to go back on previous 30 days worth of data in your Aura account, as opposed to having to like manually calculate it out. Because what I'll do every single day, like a lunatic, because I don't know how to do this with Google Sheet formulas, is I'll actually track, what this converts to in minutes, because I could do that in my head. It takes like legit, like, 3 seconds, 4 seconds to calculate it out. And it's pretty easy once you do it a couple of times. But I try to find the averages here, and that shows me the average minutes that I'm asleep, and then I just convert that into, to hours and minutes into a different format, right? Now with the wake up time, that's pretty easy because for the most part, we're all going to be waking up either, in an AM time or maybe a PM time. I mean, for me, I try to wake up between 5 and 6 AM, but the latest I'll ever sleep in is maybe like, 9 AM or 9:30 AM. So for the most part, the formulas work out pretty fine with that. So even if you sleep in until noon or 2 p.m., that's totally, again, your prerogative, but the formula should add up there. But when it comes to the PM and the AM and like the nightly averages, that's where it gets tricky. So if you're someone who's really disciplined and you never go a single day out of the month where you're awake past midnight and where it transitions over to an AM, then you're golden, right? You could just take this formula down here for your morning and you could slide it up and you could be good, right? Otherwise, if you're like me and sometimes you stay up past midnight or even 2 a.m. sometimes, 3 a.m., that can entirely throttle like the averages formula because it sees AM as like an earlier time. And anyways, it skews the entire data. And so what I do for that is I take what normally would be PM or what normally would be AM and I just swap those down here. And when I take the averages, it gives me an AM average that at the end of the month, I just manually relabel to PM, right? That might sound confusing, but if you actually use this sheet and you track your stats for a couple of days and you check how the averages change, you're going to kind of understand why I do that. And then pretty much everything else is calculated out automatically with the formulas that are in here. And it's pretty easy to follow. So, like I said, give this a try. Change these things based on the actions that you do that give you a better following day, or add some, you can specifically say things like no caffeine, right? No shit foods. An alternative way would say that you could say this is like, did I eat clean? But you want to recognize those things, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and just make sure that you have that in here. You track it every single day. And I promise you, if you do this for like 2 or 3 months and you adjust these things based on what the data is telling you is leading you down a productive path or is hindering you from having a productive day or having good outputs in your personal life and in your business, that this is going to be an incredibly powerful tool for you. And I hope that it serves you as well, if not better, as it has served me. The last thing I'll say is that there's this little note section. So I'll say, oh, you know, I was at a wedding. That's my excuse for why I stayed up late on certain days, or why my sleep wasn't as good. But that's just kind of more notes to self. So if you want to leverage that, you totally can. So yeah, I hope this video and this tool serves you. If you want to grab a copy of this, I'm going to link it in the description. So you can click on that link. It's going to prompt you to just make a copy. And then, like I said, you can adjust this however you want. I highly recommend that you get an Oura ring if you don't already have one, or you can replace this, or you can supplement this with some of the stats that you get from any other technology that you have, like your Apple Watch, your Whoop band, or anything else of that nature. So again, go ahead and use this. Let me know how it goes for you, and I hope to catch you in the next video.